they are looking to monetize further stake, and from there we've seen only consistent sell-off. That stock is actually low by about 3.5%. In fact, it has been fairly volatile, and this despite raising some funds earlier. The worry on the street is that are they raising it on account of some distress? So that's something we will keep an eye out on. But another worry is the slow onset of the monsoon, which is crucial for agriculture, and more than that, the overall economy and the sentiment itself. The Met Department now tells us that rainfall across India has been 37% below normal so far this month, and this compares with 44% last week. The Met Department also adds that eastern and southern India have been covered by the monsoons, and conditions are now favorable for rains to advance to the central and the western part of India this week. However, the deficit has impacted sowing patterns for certain crops across the country. Sowing of crops like cotton, rice, soybean, corn and pulses, they've been delayed by a fortnight. Here's GP Sharma of SkyMet on what we can expect over the next few days and weeks. So let's keep an eye on the sky.
The monsoon definitely has picked up a pace in the last 3-4 days, and that's how the deficiency has dropped now from 44% to about 37% today. But then it's going to go a little weak again after about 24 hours or so. Once again, from about 1st of July or so, fresh system is likely to form, and that should give us further rain. SkyMet had issued an advisory to delay the sowing by at least about a fortnight or so. And now we have advised that with this spell of rain, which was there in the last about 3 to 4 days, wherein monsoon has now covered more than 50% of the country.
We are joined by Ashwini Kumar Arora, the MD and CEO of LT Foods, who joins us on the phone line. Hi, Mr. Arora. Thanks so much for joining in. Well, first point on the monsoons, has there been any kind of impact on sowing?
As far as basmati is concerned, it's a late sowing, but we have seen in the history, because basmati takes lesser water and mostly is irrigated in the northern part of the India, and it will not have impact. We have to gauge that how much is the monsoon late, but we have seen in the past, if monsoon is late and have a deficit, it has a positive impact on basmati.
How much of your revenues comes in from basmati, Mr. Arora, and how much of it is domestic?
So it's all the revenue comes from basmati.
Okay.
Majority, say 10% come from organic business. The rest is all from basmati. And as far as geographical is, our roughly 30% comes from India, and 30% come from USA, and rest is from the rest of the world.
Okay, so short point, you're trying to tell us, Mr. Arora, that in spite of a delayed monsoon, you're seeing no impact on sowing, and given the factors that you've raised to us, that basmati requires less water and mostly it's done via irrigation, so it will not have an impact on business, right? That's what you're trying to tell us? Okay, yes. And 30% of your revenues come in from India. We'll get back to the India piece, but what's in the last few days, everyone's been talking about the tensions between United States as well as Iran. You told us you had some contribution coming in from the United States. So give us that number. How much comes in from the United States? I believe you have some exposure to Europe as well. But more importantly, is there any exposure to Iran?
So LT Food doesn't have any exposure to Iran.
Okay, so that clears it.
Yeah.
Okay, and what about the other parts of the world? How much comes in from the United States? How much comes in from Europe?
So roughly 30% comes from USA, and Europe is only roughly 7%, and the rest of the revenue comes from the rest of the world, Middle East and other part of the world. And as far as USA is concerned, it's a kind of non-event for us, because basmati doesn't come under that duty thing.
Right. Mr. Arora, we take that point now. What exactly is the inventory that you're sitting on right now in terms of volumes, and what's the price?
Roughly, we are always sitting, because the basmati sells by aging, and we 240 days inventory we always are sitting with that.
How much would that be roughly?
Roughly in the range of 1,400 crore. Yeah.
1,400 crores of inventory you're sitting on. All right. Okay. All right. Mr. Arora, just getting back to the US business, I was just going through a note, and they believe that that business is growing rather well. It's growing in mid-teens, I believe. So give us some clarity out there in terms of the US business. Currently, what sort of a revenue do you get from the United States? And, and also in terms of the Europe business, you said it contributes only around 7% to the total revenues in a particular year. But I believe that the European business in the last quarter, that broke even on the on the EBITDA basis. So that's positive, right? Are you looking to grow that business? Can you still stay in the positive terrain on the EBITDA front?
Yes, as you asked me the first question. So USA is roughly 1,400 crore of revenue comes from USA, and Europe, as you said, that EBITDA has come positive in the last quarter, and Europe will grow for us. But yes, Europe will grow for us. We are projecting 10 to 12% of our total revenue will come from Europe.
Last year, how much was your revenue from branded products, Mr. Arora?
So it is around 2,700 crore.
Okay, 2,700 crore of the overall 3,900 crore came in from branded.
And from organic business was 350 crore.
And do you enjoy better margins in these businesses? How are these likely to pan out going forward?
So, definitely, it has a better gross margin, but, in the branding business, you invest in that. So it's a more sustainable business, better gross margin, and in the long run, you will have a better EBITDA and the PAT margin.
And what rate are these two businesses growing at, both branded and organic?
So in USA, we have grown 15%. In India also, in certain segment, we have grown in the consumer pack 12%.
Okay. Mr. Arora, I'm going through a sales note, and what they mention out there, they believe the margins can improve by 500 basis points. In the last year, I see you did around 10% in terms of margins. So I think they are talking about the margins going to around 15% by FY23. The reasons they give is that, the scaling up of the European business that you just told us about, from 7%, you're expecting it to go to close to around 12%. And that's, turned EBITDA positive. They're saying that the rising share of premium products, and finally, they're expecting operating leverage to kick in. Do you, support that particular viewpoint that yes, margins will improve from this current 10 to 10.5%, closer towards the 15% mark?
If you see, the average EBITDA margin for the last full year was 11.8%, and we definitely, looking forward on improving that margin.
To what?
This is what, in the journey we have said that we will, in 3 years' time, we will be 15% EBITDA margin.
All right.
So you will see, year-on-year improving margin on EBITDA.
I was looking through your balance sheet, out there the borrowings have increased a little bit, your short-term debt has also increased a little bit, as have your receivables. Is there any working capital stress that you're facing, and long-term borrowings, is there on account of some capex?
No, we don't are facing any liquidity crunch. So whatever, the money is needed to grow the business, we are self-sufficient, and that will come from the internal accruals. And last year, whatever, that has raised is because of the two things. One is long-term debt, because we have invested in Europe and America. And the other is, the paddy prices have increased against last year 30%.
Okay.
And that's why, the pricing. So,
Mr. Arora, give us some simple numbers. Tell us what is the total debt in your books, and
last March was 1,692 crore. Yeah.
1,692 crores. All right. That is long-term and short-term put together, or that is only
long-term, short-term put together.
Yeah. And going ahead, you believe you can deleverage your balance sheet? If yes, how will you do it? Through internal accruals?
Yes, that will be through internal accrual. Yes.
So you bring it down to what level then?
We are targeting to reduce to whatever this year's cash profit will be. That will majority will get into the reducing the debt.
How much, sir? How much? 10% lower to 1,700 crores to 1,500 crores by the end of this year? Is that possible?
That's what we are targeting.
1,500 crores.
That's around, we are targeting to.
All right, Mr. Arora, thanks a lot for joining us and giving us those details. The fact that you have no exposure to Iran and the fact that you have had no sowing problems with regards to the products that you sell has the street enthused. The stock has moved a smidge higher. Definitely, we'll keep an eye out on the guidance that you're giving with regards to margin improvement and debt deleveraging. With that, we slip into a short break. Come back, we get chatting, or we get you an excerpt from our exclusive conversation with the 3 Ps at Pidilite. Don't go anywhere.